Had you ever felt just completely stressed out and you don't know where to begin or what to do? You might be a parent trying to figure out how to balance life with your kids and work, career, business owners. I talk to them every single day. They're stressed. Everybody seems stressed. And if you watch the news lately, everybody's stressed. So we need to figure out how do we defend ourselves against all that and what's a rational solution that works. And today I've got Rachel Wixey with me. Rachel, I want to welcome you to the show. I'll let you introduce a little bit about yourself and what you do because you help address a lot of stress.
I thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. I facilitate meditation for wellness,
Yes.
and I do that from my wellness center in Northwest Ohio. I also do this in schools and in businesses for
Mhm.
workplace wellness.
Yep.
And everything that I do when I'm in a workplace setting is secular in nature, meaning there's no religion, there's no dogma, there's no doctrine.
Mm.
We're really looking at our this work from a perspective of neuroscience and what's going on in the brain and the nervous system when we're under stress, and then what practices we can be doing to alleviate that stress.
Okay. And the name of your business is the Wixey Center, correct?
So there are two. Wixey Center for Wellness is where I do my work for my center, and then
Okay.
Work Well is what I do for workplace wellness at
Okay.
businesses. Yes.
Okay, good. So we can compact a little bit of what you do and how you do it in a moment. But before we really dive in, you are from Toledo, Ohio. And you and I talked a little bit about this before. I aged myself saying, I asked the obvious question. Grew up watching MASH, and I always heard um, Klinger talk about Toledo, Ohio. Yeah. So you're the first person I know from Toledo, Ohio.
Okay.
So the logical question I get asked when people find out I'm from Nolans is they want to know, where do I go out to eat? So I always ask the question, where does somebody go to close the deal? So if I was to come to Toledo, Ohio, or you had a business associate coming to Toledo, Ohio, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, where do you take them?
Okay, so I had two places in mind, but I think I have to start with Tony Pacos, right?
Okay.
I love Tony Pacos. I think that was one of the,
That's a real thing?
oh, that's a real,
Oh, holy cow. All right. Well, I did not know that. All right.
so very real thing. You better believe it. So if you come to town, you have to hit the original Tony Pacos on the east part of Toledo. Yeah.
I'm so glad. So glad I almost didn't bring that up because I thought it was a little corny, but that's okay. I'm glad I did.
And my personal favorite is Poco Piatti. It's
Okay.
also a privately, locally owned restaurant. It's small plates, so it's great
Okay.
for sharing. It's clean food. I leave my belly feels good every time I'm there, and I have a really wide variety for a somewhat restricted diet, that I choose to live. So it's a wonderful, wonderful place to land.
And I can appreciate that because my wife is on a diet for her autoimmune issues. So the diet makes all the difference in the world.
It makes-
You carry yourself, absolutely. And that probably ties a little bit to what we talk about here in a second. All right. Who or what are you grateful for that helped you get you where you are today?
Ooh. Definitely the people in my life, my
Mhm.
family, my kids, my husband. I've been married for 28 years this May.
Congratulations. That's all.
Thank you very much. And my kids are 20 and 24, and I learn a lot about myself through them, every day. And I also think like the lived experiences that have accumulated, you look around and you think everybody's doing well, and you kind of can reflect like, why do I feel so challenged in certain areas? And I think it's these challenging lived experiences that actually bring us to discover really what we're capable of. I know certainly with my practice, I'm very, very grateful for my meditation practice. I mean, it's farmed me in so many ways. It's something that I feel I wish I would have had in my youth. I didn't. I'm here now. I have it now.
Mhm.
But it's, largely why I do what I do for a living. I left another industry that I was in for over 25 years. I owned a business and was in staffing for education for schools for a
Mhm.
very long time. And just feel so strongly about this work that I sold that business and am now doing, facilitating meditation for wellness in schools and in businesses full time.
So that's the perfect bridge, because the next question I always love to ask is, you saw a problem in the marketplace and you say, okay, I've got a solution. How does one learn how to do what you do? And
Yeah.
and what motivated you to make that? Because that was a long time you had your other business. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a big switch.
Yeah, for sure. Well, okay, so I'll try and, do the shorter version of my story. It was somewhere around 2008.
Mhm.
At that time, I was working in a family business,
Mhm.
married and raising two kids. Still am married and raising two kids. But
Mhm.
my point is, at the time, everything from the outside looking on probably looked just fine, maybe
Mhm.
even looked successful by whatever way we may define success.
Mhm.
But what was actually going on the inside, Yul, was a great deal of judgment,
Mhm.
resentment,
Mhm.
judgment, worry, doubt, fear, judgment.
Yep.
And what I knew was there had to be another way. And there had to be another way of being with myself and my own experiences. And there had to be another way of being in relationship.
Mm.
So those up close and personal relationships that we might call important. And then also those passerby relationships, like the lady in the checkout in front of me who's taking too long, or the person driving in front of
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
And that knowing sent me seeking. This is the part I'll leave super short. That seeking led me to a body of work that didn't explicitly say this is going to teach you meditation, but it did invite me to sit down once a day, every day, let my eyes close, and then consider this. And it would give me a contemplative topic.
Mhm.
Beginning, it was for 1 minute.
Mhm.
And then over time, it grew to 3 minutes and then 5 minutes. And then I was very committed to this, still am very committed to a daily practice. So this was every single day. I had to get up, 5 a.m., 5:15, before all the other humans in my world were up and needing things. You pointed to
Mhm.
that in your opening, like all the things we do in a day.
Mhm.
And I would make sure that I sat and did this practice every single day. And then over time, it kind of grows organically because you begin to feel the nourishment in the nervous system.
Mhm.
And I didn't really have the formal study of what was going on in the brain and the nervous system at that time. I was just having the felt experience. And it's not overstating anything to say that it was very transformative in every aspect, every area of my life.
Mhm.
And so there was a point where I kind of felt like, why didn't I have this in my youth? Like, why didn't I have this as a kid? I did my teenage years a little messy. College wasn't much different. I made it. I'm here. I finished. But
Mhm.
it wasn't comfortable, and that discomfort probably started around the eighth grade, give or take. And I know the things that I have from my practice now would have been incredibly supportive in my years. And so I knew somewhere around 2015 ish that I wanted to do what I do right now. So I started to entertain buyers for the business that I was, that I had owned at that time. Then 2017, I took on partners with a 3-year potential plan to sell out. And even though we were all in the midst of 2020,
Oh,
we all
wow.
agreed on our, what we said in 2017 to stand by that. And I agreed to sell, they agreed to buy, and now I get to do this full time in my work.
Well, it's almost like that timing was meant to happen in a way that took 3 years to lead you to 2020, because people were pretty stressed out in 2020.
Great.
Still are, but yeah.
Absolutely still are. Yeah, there's a great deal of residual
Mhm.
from things we've gone through since 2020 for sure.
So you formalized the process, learning how to do it,
Yeah.
and then you started your business. Did How did that begin? I mean, did you turn to people you worked with before and said, "This is what I'm doing now. I'll come and teach you how to do this"? Group setting, one-on-one. What did that look like?
So this period prior to forming the business was there was a great deal of formal study going on. Still is. I
Mhm.
continue to study the neuroscience of this
Mhm.
all the time. I love it. But a great deal of study went on, because I got very interested in, well, where is the efficacy coming from? Like, why does this quote work?
Mhm.
It impacts mental, physical, social, emotional, psychological health and wellness. I was having the experience of that. It impacted my sleep and it impacted relationships. It impacted the nutrition that I wanted in my body. It impacted my movement in my body. It just touches everything. And I wanted to know about the efficacy. So I had a lot of study going on during that time. And I just actually started holding at my center, my wellness center, educational series. So a 5-week series introducing an introduction to meditation, where we would talk about the very basic foundation skills, what we're doing, why we're doing it. We would practice together. I would make sure in those 5 weeks that people had kind of a repertoire of different practices that they could work with to begin to explore the felt experience of the practice for themselves. They had homework. The homework was sit down once a day, every day, and practice.
Oh, wow.
And practice for 1, 2, 3 minutes, and then grow that over time. And believe it or not, people are ready for this. People are ready to feel better. So
I believe that
yeah,
100%. I mean, you can, it's palatable. I mean, we experienced it. We went through Hurricane Katrina, Rita in Louisiana. And of course, we had a few other crises since. And everybody seems to have some kind of crisis where they are in their country. And the stress is real, whether it doesn't need to be a Category 5 hurricane. My mentor once told me, if the crisis is hitting you, it doesn't matter if it's a Category 5 or a Category 1, but if it's a direct hit and you're feeling that stress, you got to figure out how to deal with it. And if you don't figure out how to deal with it, you got real problems.
that's
And
correct.
you have to address it head on.
Yeah.
And you provide. So, what does the process look like for somebody starting out with this? And we could even walk through that. Or what is a logical steps for somebody wanting to know? Let's educate the audience on what this looks like.
Yeah. So if I were to share some of my, biggest tips on getting started in a
Yes.
practice,
Yes.
number one, dedicate time once a day, every day. And I strongly recommend mornings. And in mornings, our minds are most open and susceptible for change. We have a lot less to contend with from the day.
Mm.
And it sets our consciousness for something for something new. And so number one, set aside time. Your body's going to want to fight you. It takes resources to form new habits.
Mhm.
Our body has to be willing to give resources to a new habit. So in the beginning, your mind might tell you, you know what, I'm just going to do those dishes over there, get back to my emails and finish that little laundry. Tomorrow I'll start and that'll be great. And no, 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 no. Sit down day one.
She described, I did great Monday doing something along the lines, but Tuesday, I all went out the window. Go ahead.
Yep. Yep. So number one, dedicate time and sit your butt down and do it. And in the beginning, start small. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Carve out 5 minutes that you can go sit down in a designated area in your home where you feel secure. Safety is more than the removal of threat. It's a felt experience. And so you want a nice, safe environment to be in. And it doesn't take a lot of space. Like you and I are sitting, we'll do a practice maybe here together in a moment, but
Okay.
it doesn't take a lot of space. You just know where you're going when you're ready to sit down and practice.
Okay.
And then have an anchor to work with, meaning something to hold your attention to that is available to you in the present moment. We'll do this when we practice.
That's maybe what I'm missing. Go ahead.
Yep. And then don't expect perfection and don't expect perfect conditions. So if I waited for my environment to be perfect for me to practice, I would just simply never practice.
Mm.
In my home, my meditation cushion is above. It's in the bedroom, but it's in a room above the garage. And my husband, the woodworker, I have 2 dogs, the garage door is opening and closing. Like if I waited for the house to be willing to be quiet for me to practice, we simply wouldn't practice. So
Mm.
we actually use our environment to begin to notice how we're relating instead of, feeling frustrated that it's not perfect. So
Okay.
noticing our frustration
Okay.
instead of being carried away by our frustration. Yeah, he was like that. So, and then I think a big myth is a lot of people say to me, I'd love to meditate, Rachel, but my thoughts are too busy. I can't. And my response to that is respectfully, that's all of us. We're human.
Yeah.
We all have very busy minds. It's the nature of the human mind.
Mhm. That's,
So
and it's almost like acknowledging that gives you permission to address it.
correct.
Interesting.
The way we begin to train and discipline our mind is we select an anchor, we hold our attention to it. The moment we notice that our thoughts have wandered, and they will, expect them to, they will.
Okay.
Notice the nature of our thinking. So this is where our thoughts begin to inform us of our own thought patterns, our own subtle tendencies. We can't change what we're not aware of. And so this is where we notice the nature of our thinking, allowing those thoughts to pass to the extent that we can, even if just for our protected time and practice. Get back to it later if we want to.
Okay.
Then gently returning back to the anchor that we're working with. And an anchor is going to be anything available to us in our immediate moment.
And what does that look like? What does an anchor look like? I mean,
An anchor could be, we'll do a practice here in just one moment, but an anchor could be something as simple as noticing one sound in your environment.
Mm.
Or noticing where your hands are touching right now, holding awareness on what your hands are connected to each other. Maybe they're connected to something else.
Okay.
Obviously, breath work makes it into these practices quite a bit. So we can work with breath in a lot of different ways. And breath is a constant resource available to us for this. So maybe we notice the physical sensation of breath and where we feel the breath the most.
Okay.
Maybe we want to count the breath. But each time we hold our attention to something that's available in the present moment, we're putting blood flow to the part of the brain that's responsible for decision-making, executive function, and my very favorite, emotion regulation. So we're inducing this regulatory effect in the system each time we anchor attention in the present moment. It's really cool what we're capable of as humans.
And that's key, because that's where I always lose it, because I had the same thought you mentioned a minute ago, because I'm like, gosh, my mind just was running today. And I let it run, and the next thing you know, I'm like off a task.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
It's the nature of right.
Let's try this.
Let's do it.
Good.
So I'll share that anytime I guide a practice, I'm going to start it formally so that you know that we're starting.
Okay.
I end it formally so that you know that we're complete.
Okay.
I'll leave a very brief period of silence in the middle. This is on purpose. I'm not going anywhere. And over time, if we can begin to extend our silence and stillness in our practice, it's very nourishing for the nervous system. If we feel safe in silence and in stillness.
Okay.
Then, excuse me, I'm going to take a drink of prayer.
That's fine.
Thank you. And if you practice with a sincere heart, meaning you just follow my prompts in a sincere way, do the best that you can with what I'm asking, you will have done the meditation successfully.
Okay.
Sound good to you?
Sounds great.
This will be about 3 minutes.
Okay.
And so to begin, inviting you to get into a comfortable position, sitting upright yet relaxed. And even just taking that upright posture signals to the nervous system that we're here for a practice. So it gives us a new sense of alertness, sometimes even just taking that upright posture. And inviting you to let your eyes close if it feels right for you. And if it does not, you may simply drop your gaze to something before you.
Okay.
When we close our eyes, it does reduce outside stimulation, and it will begin to slow brain waves as well. And if it's available to you, having both feet flat on the ground. For some of us, that might mean scooching the tush up just a little bit to the edge of the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And I will, to begin, inviting awareness to discover the breath. We're just looking to find the breath as it is right now. We're not looking to change it or manipulate it in any way. We're just being present to the breath. Inviting attention now to drop to the sit bones. And just feeling the pressure points between the sit bones and the seat that's supporting us. We're just feeling the pressure points and the sit bones. And maybe even allowing ourselves to sink a bit heavier into the sit bones. Relaxing muscles in the belly. Allowing the legs to let go and relax completely. Creating relaxation so that we sink a bit heavier into the sit bones. And dropping attention now one more time to the bottom of the feet. Just scanning awareness for any physical sensation you may detect in the bottom of the feet. And if none's available, maybe giving the feet a twist or a press into the ground. Just detecting physical sensation in the bottom of the feet. And bringing awareness now back up to the breath. As we look to bring our practice to a close, together following one natural cycle of the breath, finding the beginning of the in-breath to the end of the in-breath, and the beginning of the out-breath to the end of the out-breath. And as we feel ready, beginning to blink eyes and bring awareness back into our space together. And as we do, detecting pressure points in the sit bones with eyes open. So we practice the quality of awareness with eyes open as well. Thank you for your practice.
And it's funny, you start noticing things like sit bones. That's a new terminology. Like, did she say what she said?
Hi.
That's relaxing.
You're okay.
That is relaxing. I want to ask you, that's very relaxing. Especially under the circumstances, it's still relaxing, because I wasn't sure we'd be doing that today. Um, what is your definition of meditation?
The definition that I usually work with, first, I would want to say that there are many different kinds of meditation. I'm not saying this is the only kind or the beginning and the end or the best kind or only do this. I'm saying this is appropriate for workplace. This is based in neuroscience. So none of this is Rachel's opinion, really. This is backed in science. And so we begin to understand where the efficacy comes from. I think the educational piece is important. It's like the concert psych up to get us there sometime. So the definition that I usually work with in like professional development in schools or other trainings is this: the awareness that comes from paying attention in the present moment on purpose, non-judgmentally. That's the kicker.
Yeah.
Without judgment. So the awareness that comes from paying attention in the present moment, on purpose, and to the extent that we can, suspending our judgment for the period of our practice.
Okay. That's great. And this is what you help companies do, parents do,
Yeah.
kids too, or? Yeah.
I'm certified to facilitate mindfulness curriculum with K-12 youth.
Yeah.
They teach us that as early as 4 years old. This is appropriate for explicit curriculum. But really, there are two ways to bring mindfulness to youth. And one is through the explicit curriculum. The other is through the embodied nervous system of the adults that spend time with kids. Their nervous system is actually attuning to our system for their regulation. They don't even have the architecture in the brain developed yet to be able to self-regulate on their own. Kids don't just need adults, they need regulated adults.
Yeah, that makes sense. All
Yeah.
that makes sense. And I'm a big believer in this breath work. And you touched on nutrition. That's do you talk about that in your programs, or is that or do you focus just on the meditation part? Do you talk
So
about that?
any of my offerings are with an underpinning of meditation for sure.
Mhm.
I do have other facilitators and coaches that are studied, trained, their expertise is nutrition. So I'm
Yes.
a person that's providing offerings in nutrition, and then someone that is focused on hormones, someone that's focused on movement.
Love it.
I'm a clinical psychologist that focuses on resilience and other things related to her field. So this is all in an online wellness community because one of the biggest things that I hear when I go out into school is how do we keep going? What can I do? What can we do next?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. So I do have an online wellness community to answer to that as well.
Well, this has been fantastic. Wow. You know, I appreciate this a lot because what really opened my mind to it, besides my personal faith, understanding meditation, and then another layer to it was the nutrition for my wife with autoimmune issue. I watched her turn around her autoimmune, and then, but she still gets stress is a trigger for her. So this is really important. This is what you do is really important, so that she can help regulate that stress even better. And then, I look at the impact of you still bring them all together. That's where the real impact comes.
Money in the bank, my friend. I want to say, if I may say one thing about
Please,
her.
please.
So from the time I was 13, when I'm not tending to something properly, either in my mind or in my lifestyle, my body responds with an autoimmune response. And this, I could give you countless different things since that time that has
Interesting.
manifested physically in my body. But what's important to recognize and really support what you're saying about that is that's a defense response in the system.
It is.
And meditation induces a regulatory effect and it signals to the nervous system we are safe. We don't have to be in high gear. We don't have to be activated in low to mid or mid to high grade stress in that fight flight response
Mm.
all the time.
Oh,
And I was running in low to mid to high grade stress prior to finding my practice. And this is in part what wreaked such havoc on my nervous system health. And so to sit once a day, every day in practice, I'm actually giving a regulatory effect which signals safety in my system, meaning that fight flight response can be at ease and we can begin to find homeostasis within all of our systems again.
I'm gonna add another layer to this. We experienced this after Katrina. Everybody did here at Hurricane Katrina, that is. We worked for 2 years, and the city collectively worked for 2 years to come back. And we all looked around after 2 years, we were like, "It's still got a long yeah." But we got into this habit of running off of adrenaline. That's not good. That's bad too, because you're in crisis mode, so you just start running on adrenaline. Then you don't know what it's like not to run on adrenaline, and that's not healthy either. So this meditation it grounds you in that process as well. Do you see that for people who are at high stress jobs dealing with running off of adrenaline all the time to keep them going?
Yes. And what happens is in our world, we call it window of tolerance. It's what it implies, where we're in a healthy nervous system state. As we go into fight flight,
Mhm.
like as a lifestyle, like what you're pointing to, that adrenaline constantly rushing through the system, cortisol constantly rushing through the system,
Yeah.
fight flight response. The physiological response is the blood is leaving the organs, rushing to the extremities, preparing us literally to fight or run. All of the chemicals are dumping from the brain into the body that you're pointing to, adrenaline and cortisol. And we can't metabolize that until we begin to find that regulated state. So it just cools up in our body. And then we're having dis-ease, we're having health complications and fallout. And the nervous system actually retunes to where the comfortable state is stress.
Yeah.
And
Right.
like we end up recognizing when we get comfortable for a minute, like that no longer feels normal to be comfortable.
Yeah, I
And
can
our
see
brain actually starts looking for the almost trauma or something to worry about, almost some kind of something to get
that.
looked up.
And this thing,
Yeah. Don't get me started.
For people not listening just to the audio, I'm holding my cell phone up because it's
Right.
that's so bloody addictive. It's like you almost feel like you have to. It's hard. I went to a conference and I left my phone in my room and I went downstairs and I ate by myself. I was losing my mind because I didn't have somebody to talk to. The TV wasn't on. I'm like, I just had to sit there and eat.
I'm in love with this though. I'm in love with this because we use these. My certification process was bookended by 2 week-long silent retreats.
Yeah.
We weren't to speak to anyone. We weren't to communicate. I couldn't smile and nod. We weren't to read. We weren't to write. Our phones were turned over. They weren't even we didn't have phones. With this invitation to begin to notice how we relate to ourselves in the world. And really, this is where suffering occurs too, in the mind and how we're relating to fill in the blank. So the more we're willing and able to explore that with some skill,
Yeah.
the more we can begin to kind of take stock in what is nourishing and what is supportive,
Well,
and know where our mind spends time.
I think you just landed the plane first because you talked about skill, and this is a practice. It's an intentional practice.
Yes, sir. Yes. Exclamation mark.
Okay. How can people find you to learn more about what you do and your practice and how you can help people?
Thank you. 2 places. One is Rachel-Wixey.com, and it's RACHEL-WIXEY. And then the work that I do in schools and in businesses, my website is myworkwellcommunity.com.
My Work Well Community. And we'll have the links put
Yes. Thank you.
onto
Thank you
your
for that.
page.
Sure.
Onto your page. Well, Rachel, I really appreciate it. That was a great exercise.
Thank you. You've been a joy. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great, thank you.
I appreciate you. You do the same. Keep taking good care.
And that is a wrap with Rachel. And she and I talked for another 20 minutes after this. And I was talking about how my wife, when she gets really stressed, it really does. The trigger to my wife's autoimmune system, which is called Sjogren's, is stress. That's a major trigger, and it is for a lot of people. And my wife will naturally, late at night, she'll be in bed and she'll just start breathing heavy. That's a natural instinct to try to figure out how to ground the stress in some way. And what Rachel's doing is taking that natural thing and making it an intentional habit so we can even be better at regulating it. So that's the whole process here. And we even talked further about how important diet is because I'm a big proponent of eating clean. I still like my cheeseburger from time to time, but that's very rare nowadays because I pay the price later on. And even like I talked about, I hardly eat any sweets anymore. I love sweets, and if I do splurge and I splurge on a half a pint of ice cream, the next day, mentally I am off. I mean, almost depressed. So all these things do matter. And of course, one thing we did not talk about was exercise and keeping movement and going, which I'm also a big proponent of. So anyway, I hope this episode is helpful to you. I hope you can go back and maybe even if you listen to this, I hope you even go back and do the exercise that she walked me through because I could feel my stress come down. Even while doing a show like this, I can feel it come down. So that's important. That shows you what can be done. And if you're by yourself in your room, I'd say give it a try. What the heck? Why not? Because it can make a huge difference. And being intentional about it is the key. And you all know the drill at the end of this show is being intentional. So I'm an advocate for that. Now, I'm going to ask you a favor. I love producing content like this. The only thing I ask is that you share this with other people. This may be very helpful to other people you know. Please share this with them if you think so. And like it and give it 5 stars on Apple. That's really appreciated. And you know the drill. Be intentional. And thank you, and make today a great day. Be intentional and make today a great day. Take care.